The anime begins with a young boy named Yuu Otosaka. So, Yuu has a special power. He can take over someone's body for 5 seconds. He often wonders why he is the only one with this power. Yuu likes to use his power on people he meets. But, after using his power, he feels very tired and wants to faint. If he uses it too much, his body gets hurt. You can only use his power if the person is close to him. He often uses it to prank bullies who are mean to others. He also uses it to fight back against those who insult people. One day at school, Yuu's class has a big test. Yuu gets ready to use his power to cheat. He takes over the smartest student's body and copies their answers. Because of this, Yuu gets the highest score in the class. He feels very proud when other students praise him. Yuu does this because he wants to go to a special school in the city. Yuu is a little worried because he doesn't know who the smart students are for the entrance exams. But he doesn't give up. He goes to different tutoring places in the city, pretending to be a student. He collects information about the smartest students. After looking around and gathering information, Yuu got a list of the smartest students who would take the entrance exam for a prestigious academy. Fortunately, he managed to get into the academy with the highest score. During the welcoming ceremony for new students, Yuu gave a speech in front of everyone. Friends began to praise his intelligence and good looks. His high school life was going well, and he was very happy to always be the center of attention among the girls. One day, after school, Yuu met a girl who had sent him a message. She wanted to ask Yuu on a date, but he arrogantly refused. Yuu was very picky about girls. He was targeting the most popular girl in school, Yumi Shirianaji. Yumi was the dream girl of the school. Yuu started following Yumi and her friend, Yulin, who always went home together. Then, Yuu used his power to take over Yulin's body and leave Yumi alone. After that, Yuu started trying to get closer to Yumi. He then possessed a truck driver, causing the truck to go out of control. The truck was about to hit Yumi, but Yuu quickly jumped in to save her. Yuu's trick worked, and Yumi started to fall in love with him. Yuu took Yumi and Yulin to the school clinic. After being treated, Yumi invited Yuu to hang out at a snack shop. But Yuu refused and asked Yumi to go with Yulin instead. Seeing Yumi's expression of wanting to be with Yuu, Yulin made an excuse to go home first. Finally, Yuu and Yumi went out together, and they talked and shared stories at a cafe. At that time, Yuu managed to make Yumi fascinated by him in a short time. The next day, in class, Yumi sent a message to Yuu, asking him to go home together. Yuu laughed because he thought Yumi was easy to impress. Soon, there was an announcement for Yuu to go to the student council room. Soon after, he went and met a student named Yoshiyuki Omura. There, Omura asked Yuu to retake the midterm exam because someone reported that Yuu had cheated. Yuu was shocked by the report and left the room. But Omura threatened to report him to the principal. Yuu was very confused and didn't want to retake the exam because he didn't know the answers. So, Yuu used his power to copy Omura's answers. But it turned out Omura's answer sheet was just a photo, which made Yuu very angry. Suddenly, a girl named Nao Tomori appeared and showed a video of Yuu cheating. That moment Nao caught Yuu because he had supernatural powers. So, Nao is a first-year student and the student council president at Hashinumi Academy. Even though she is the president, Nao doesn't have any female friends because of something she did in the past. Nao can make herself invisible, but only to one person at a time. Yuu didn't want to admit his powers and went on a rampage in the room. Soon after, Yuu ran away from school and met Yumi. He asked her to leave with him, but Yumi fell, and Yuu left her behind. Then, a man helped Yumi and took care of her. Meanwhile, Yuu, who was scared, ran away alone. After a long chase, Yuu was caught by a student named Takazu Jujiru. Jujiru is a first-year student and a member of the student council. He can move very fast, almost like teleporting, but he can't fully control when to stop. Then, Jujiru made Yuu stop fighting back, and they started talking. During their conversation, Nao showed up and invited Yuu to transfer to Hashinumi Academy, a school for students with supernatural powers. There, Nao showed her strength and beat Yuu up. After that, Yuu went home and saw his little sister cooking. Yuu's younger sister, Ayumi, was worried when she saw his bruised face. Ayumi is a middle school student. Unlike Yuu, who uses his powers to cheat, Ayumi is very kind and cares a lot about her older brother. She often supports Yuu and takes care of the household chores, always adding pizza sauce to every meal she makes. Ayumi is also a fan of the band How Hollow. Shortly after, Ayumi talked to you about their school transfer letter. Their uncle said that you and Ayumi got a scholarship. Ayumi was very happy because it would save them money. After that, she made dinner for them. You asked Ayumi to rest because they would be moving to a new house the next day. Ayumi loves looking at the stars and kept staring at them. You advised her to stop and go to sleep. The next day, you and Ayumi moved into a fancy apartment. They started arranging their things. Soon, Nao and Jujurv came to help. Seeing them made you very upset. After that, you promised to meet Yumi because they needed to break up. This time, you was the one being dumped, and it made him upset. When he got home, you was very quiet because he was so unhappy. Nao came over and started recording him. At that time, you got very angry and ignored Nao and Jujuru. He complained about why they were bothering to help him. But Ayumi was very happy that Nao and Jujuru were helping with the move. After cleaning up, Nao and Jujuru said goodbye and left. You and Ayumi had dinner together. Next, it was time to go to their new school. You introduced himself proudly in front of the class. But he was very surprised to see that Nao and Jujuru were in the same class as him. During break time, you opened his lunch and complained because his sister had made fried rice for him. Then, Jujuru invited you to the canteen and offered to buy him lunch. You asked Jujuru if he should invite the student council president, Nao, to join them. Jujuru said you was welcome to invite her if you wanted to. But you decided not to invite Nao. So, the two of them went to the canteen without her. At the canteen, there was a long line of students waiting to buy food. You complained about how they would get their bread. Confidently, Jujuru used his super speed, ran to the front, and gave his money to the cashier. He then handed the bread to you, even though he was covered in bruises. You was shocked to see Jujuru's reckless actions that injured him. Jujuru told you that he was wearing protection under his uniform. Then, you and Jujuru went back to class and ate their snacks while chatting. Soon, Nao told them that the student council would have a meeting after school. Nao planned to catch a kid with special powers from another school and invited you and Jujuru to join. At first, you didn't want to go, but Nao kept insisting until you agreed. After asking around at a school, Nao learned about a boy who was into photography. Nao and her friends went to find him. They caught him and questioned him. That boy said he got the photos from a student named Udo in Class 2E. So, Nao and the others went to find Udo to question him. At first, Udo didn't want to admit what he had done. Then, Nao showed him proof he couldn't deny. Udo was the head of the archery club and was well-liked by the students. Nao asked why he used his powers in a bad way. Udo said he needed money because his mom was in the hospital. He threatened to show Nao's photos to the public if she threatened him. Then, you used his power to take over Udo's body and handed the photos to Nao. Udo was shocked and confused, watching himself give the photos to Nao. Suddenly, an arrow flew out of Udo's hand and almost hit Nao. But Jujuru quickly caught the arrow and saved Nao. Finally, the three of them completed their mission. You was curious about why Nao liked finding students with supernatural powers. Nao said she didn't want people like them to be used as experiments by scientists, like what happened to her older brother. You asked what happened to her brother, and Nao said she would take you to see him so he could understand. Then, Nao and you decided to visit Nao's older brother and invited Jujuru, but Jujuru asked them to go without him. On the trip, Nao told you about her older brother and their past. Nao used to be a smart student who wanted to go to a popular school. Her older brother wanted to go to music school and live on his own. One day, their mom asked them to go to a different school with research facilities. At first, Nao and her brother didn't want to go and argued with their mom. But when they saw how much their mom wanted them to go, they agreed. Nao started at the new school and made many friends. She didn't feel lonely anymore when she came home from school. However, at the new school, Nao was always examined by scientists every day. This was her daily routine. Nao was curious about her older brother because even though they were at the same school, they never met. She asked her friends about him, but they always changed the topic. Nao's older brother had been used as an experiment by the scientists. They wanted to use his powers as a state weapon, but the experiment failed. He became stressed and lost control. Realizing this, Nao ran away from the school and met someone who saved her. This person took Nao to Hashinumi Academy, where Nao started gathering students with special powers. After that, Nao introduced her older brother to you, and they took him for a walk by the lake. The beautiful view helped the patients feel more relaxed. You felt that Nao's life was very hard and felt sorry for her. Even though Nao seemed strong, she had a difficult past. Next, you and Nao went back to their homes. When you got home, Ayumi scolded him for coming back late. You explained to Ayumi that he was busy with student council activities. After that, they had dinner together, and you looked at his little sister, feeling scared about what might happen to her. He worried about Ayumi's future, especially if she had supernatural powers like him. Ayumi always looked at the stars from her room, saying they only appeared once every 100 years. Shortly after, you asked Ayumi to rest because she had school the next day. The next day, Ayumi made lunch for you, a fried rice omelette. But you asked Ayumi not to make him lunch anymore because he wanted to eat with his classmates in the cafeteria and socialize. He took the lunch Ayumi made and ate it at the bus stop. At school, you and Jujaru went to the student council room. A student named Takahito Kamigami, who has supernatural powers, helped find people with special powers using maps. This time, their target was someone with 2 special powers. Now, you and Jujaru set out to find this person. Nao used her handy cam to look for clues. They found out the target was an idol named Yusa Nishimori. Nao and you didn't know her, but Jujaru was a big fan. Then, Jujaru told them about Yusa's career and how she took a break after starting high school. While they were talking, a man was seen following them. Soon after, Nao chased the man but got hit in the face. You then used his power to take over the man's body, with Jujaru's help. They caught the man, who confessed he was a spy hired by a TV station to follow Yusa Nishimori. Next, Nao and her friends continued investigating and met a man named Sho. At first, Sho was suspicious of why Nao and her friends were looking for Yusa Nishimori. Nao explained that they wanted to protect Yusa. She told Sho that they knew about Yusa's supernatural powers. At that time, Sho was surprised that Nao knew Yusa's secret and asked them to prove it. After showing the evidence, Sho took Nao and her friends to Yusa's base camp. There, they met Kuda, Yusa's manager. Nao started to question Yusa and recorded it. Yusa is a first-year student and a member of the student council. She is also an idol singer in a band called How Low Hollow, with the nickname Userin. Turns out, Yusa can communicate with dead people, but she thinks she is just sleepwalking. Nao then asked Kuda and Sho about Misa. Kuda explained that Misa is Yusa's older sister, who is only 1 year older than her. So, Misa died in an accident 6 months ago and sometimes possesses Yusa. When Misa takes over, Yusa's appearance changes. Her eye color changes from blue to red, her hair becomes darker, and she gains the ability to control fire. Misa is a tomboyish girl who gets angry quickly. Suddenly, Yusa turned into Misa and started throwing a tantrum, almost burning down the room with her powers. Nao then invited Misa to talk calmly. Next, Nao wanted to know why Yusa was being chased by enemies. Kuda explained that Yusa had accidentally found a cell phone belonging to an important person in the entertainment world. Yusa read messages on the phone and discovered that the man had committed corruption. The man saw Yusa as a threat and started hunting her. After hearing the story, Nao promised to help Misa and Yusa, on the condition that Yusa join the group of kids with special powers. Misa agreed because she wanted to protect Yusa. Nao then made a plan to trap their enemy. Soon after, Nao, Sho, and Kuda bought fireproof clothing and disguised themselves as bodyguards. Then, Misa invited Psycho's men to meet and settle the problem. Psycho's man said that Yusa could no longer have a career in the entertainment world. Misa got angry and attacked Psycho's bodyguards. Shortly after, Misa threatened the man, telling him not to interfere with Yusa's future. She gave him his cell phone back and said their problems were over. The man ran away, scared. Nao then invited Yusa to move to Hashinumi Academy and join the student council. Misa thought this would be good for Yusa, so she agreed. Nao explained that scientists were looking for people with special powers for experiments. She wanted to protect these individuals. At first, Sho and Kuda didn't agree, but they respected Misa's decision. Kuda confessed his love for Misa and regretted his actions. Sho felt guilty for Misa's death. Misa comforted Sho and asked him to move on and start fresh. Afterward, you went home and was greeted by Ayumi. At that time, Ayumi made a delicious dinner because they had run out of pizza sauce. Yu was happy to eat tasty food without pizza sauce. Ayumi told Yu about being approached by a boy at school. Yu was curious and asked for more details. Ayumi said she gently rejected the boy because she wanted to find a better boyfriend than Yu. After that, Yu noticed that Ayumi was not feeling well and checked her temperature. She had a high fever. Yu quickly took care of her, gave her medicine, and Ayumi rested in her room and went to sleep. The next day, Yu told Ayumi to stay home and rest instead of going to school. He said he would inform her teacher about her condition. At the student council room, Nao got information that the target was in the school apartment and might be a sick student with the power to destroy. Yu was shocked and remembered that Ayumi was sick. Nao asked if he knew anything, and Yu told her that Ayumi was sick and at the apartment. Then, Nao decided to visit Ayumi to find out more about her powers. Soon after, Yu invited Yusa because Ayumi is a big fan of her. They went to the supermarket and bought instant porridge for dinner. When they arrived at the apartment, Yu saw Ayumi's friends visiting her. One of them, Oikawa, was the boy who had shot Ayumi. Oikawa and the others left soon after. Nao comforted Ayumi, making her very happy. Then, Yusa appeared in front of Ayumi, and Ayumi was thrilled. She was very happy to meet Yusa in person. Yusa gave Ayumi some biscuits as a gift. After that, Yu and the others ate porridge together and chatted. Ayumi and Yusa got along very well, even though it was their first time meeting. Not long after, Yusa was called by her manager because she had to appear on a TV show. After eating, Nao and Yu washed the dishes together, and they looked romantic. Ayumi thought that Yu and Nao were dating, but they denied it. Ayumi was very happy and thought Yu and Nao made a great couple, but the two of them kept arguing and never got along. Next, Yu gave Ayumi some medicine and asked her to rest. Ayumi told Yu that she had a bad dream. Yu was worried but told her to sleep. Then, he walked Nao to the door, and they talked for a bit. Nao asked Yu to find out more about Ayumi's dream so they could prepare. She also told Yu that Ayumi shouldn't go to school tomorrow because they didn't know what powers Ayumi might have. The next day, Yu told Nao that Ayumi dreamed about destruction and the ground splitting open. Nao said that Ayumi was secretly going to school. Yu panicked because Ayumi was supposed to stay home. Meanwhile, Ayumi sneaked out of the apartment to avoid the security guard. Soon, she arrived at school and saw Oikawa. Oikawa invited her to eat red bean porridge, but she refused. Ayumi's best friend stopped Oikawa from bothering her. Then, Ayumi ran into Kanishi, who looked very angry. Kanishi hated Ayumi because she thought Ayumi took Oikawa away from her. Oikawa and Kanishi used to be close and almost dated, but their relationship changed after Ayumi arrived. At that time, Kanishi was furious and tried to attack Ayumi with a knife. Ayumi ran but got cornered. Then, her power activated and the school building collapsed. Suddenly, Ayumi fell into the ground and was buried under the rubble. Yu was very panicked and searched for her, digging through the ruins to find her. After the incident, Yu was hospitalized due to his injuries. Sadly, Ayumi was declared dead from the building collapse. Then, Yu attended Ayumi's funeral, looking very stressed and heartbroken. Arriving home, Yu looked at Ayumi's room and put her photo in there. He couldn't believe Ayumi died so quickly. At that moment, Yu felt guilty because he never returned Ayumi's kindness. He cried while remembering her cute face. Several days passed, and Yu couldn't move on from Ayumi's death. He didn't leave the house or go to school. Jujuru and Yusa came to visit him, but Yu didn't want to open the door. He stayed in his room and ate instant food. One day, Yusek's girlfriend, Yumi, visited him, but he was indifferent and ignored her. Shortly after, Yumi invited Yu to eat outside and get some fresh air, but he refused and asked her to leave. Yumi said she wanted to help Yu, who looked very sad. Then, he asked her to buy a box of instant noodles. Yumi refused and tried to take Yu outside. Hearing that, Yu got very angry, which scared Yumi, and she left his apartment. Now Yu felt unsafe in his apartment, so he withdrew all his savings and left the city, hoping Takahito couldn't find him. Soon after, Yu found a 24-hour gaming place and stayed there, ordering pizza as his daily meal. Bored, he walked around the city wearing a hat and bought grilled mochi. Yu spent his days playing games at the arcade and eating grilled mochi. One day, he was attacked by a thug who wanted to kill him. You fought back and defeated the thug. Feeling lost after Ayumi's death, he began beating up all the gang members in the city until he became the strongest. One day, you saw a thug with illegal drugs. Frustrated, he thought about using them to forget his pain. But before he could, Nao stopped him. Yu was very surprised and asked since when Nao had been there. Nao said she had been following him all along. She didn't want you to destroy himself with drugs. Shortly after, she invited him to have a meal, promising not to interfere in his life after that. Yu agreed. At that time, Nao took you to Jujuru's house and cooked for him. When you saw the dish, it was omelette fried rice, which reminded him of the fried rice Ayumi used to make with pizza sauce. Then, you tried it and realized it tasted just like Ayumi's cooking. Nao showed him the cookbook that their mother had left, which Ayumi always used. You ate the fried rice happily, without leaving any leftovers. After that, Nao invited you to go back to school and join the student council. However, you refused, reminding Nao of her promise not to interfere. But Nao had a trick up her sleeve. She pointed out that you had finished all his fried rice, even though they had agreed he would only take one bite. Hearing that, you laughed and agreed to return to the student council. Back at school, you was welcomed by his friends, which made him happy. Although he was still grieving, he felt a bit better. Later, Nao called you and Jujuru to the student council room. Nao had tickets to a rock bandzine concert and wanted to invite a friend. But Yusa declined because she didn't understand rock music. Jujuru also didn't want to go with Nao. Soon after, Jujuru suggested that you go with her. Nao asked you to relax and enjoy some music. You agreed and decided to accompany Nao to her favorite concert. While walking home from school, Nao met a blind woman and greeted her. The woman was Sarah Shane, the vocalist from the bandzine. At first, you thought Sarah couldn't speak Japanese, but he was wrong. Shortly after, Sarah invited them to chat, and they went to eat together. When they arrived at the shop, the seller recognized Sarah as the zine vocalist and was very happy. The seller's name was Ryuya, and he was a big fan of Sarah. After eating together, you took Sarah for a walk in the park, and they chatted about Ayumi. Sarah felt sorry for Yu's loss. They visited Ayumi's grave together, and then Sarah stopped by Yu's house to continue their conversation. You asked Sarah to visit one of her biggest fans who was in the hospital. Sarah agreed because she wanted to repay Yu's kindness. Later, you drew a picture of Nao and asked her for permission to visit her older brother in the hospital. At first, Nao refused, but Yu's sincerity convinced her. At the hospital, Sarah saw Nao's older brother in a very sad condition. She sang her favorite song, which calmed him down. There, you tried to remind Nao's older brother about Nao. Finally, Nao's older brother remembered that he had a younger sister. Yu was very happy and touched to see Nao's older brother getting better. Then, you thanked Sarah and promised to go to her concert the next day with his friends. Shortly after, Nao called you and thanked him for helping her brother remember her. There, Nao reminded you to watch the concert with her. The next day, you meets Nao, and they go to a concert together. They arrive early because Nao wants to buy the latest zined Android souvenirs. After a while, Nao gets the souvenir she wanted, and they start to look like a couple on a date. Then, they enter the hall and watch Sarah Shane sing her favorite song. At that moment, Nao looks very happy and smiles more than usual. While listening to the song, Yu's head starts to hurt, and he screams in the concert hall. Yu suddenly has a vision of Ayumi and himself being tested and kept as prisoners by scientists. They are in an isolated prison where scientists want to study them. Yu and his friend, Kamigami, plan to escape with their older brother, but the plan is halted when the scientists try to dissect Ayumi because of her destructive power. Soon after, a professor named Tsutsumiuchi helps you escape. Tsutsumiuchi tells you that the scientists will destroy Ayumi. Upon hearing that, Yu rushes to save her, using telepathy to communicate with his older brother and find his location. With the help of another colleague, Yu manages to find his older brother, Shunsuke Otosaka, who can travel through time. There, Shunsuke sends you to another dimension to erase his memories. Not long after, Yu wakes up and realizes it was just a dream. Kamigami approaches and says he will explain everything when they get to the base. Kamigami then takes you to meet Shunsuke. In that moment, Nao is surprised to learn that Yu is Shunsuke's younger brother. Turns out, Shunsuke is also the person who saved Nao and is her older brother. Next, Komagami met you and Shun at their headquarters. You felt confused and cold when he met his older brother. Shun then told the story of how he, you, and Ayumi moved 3 years back in time before they were captured by scientists. Shun lived with you and Ayumi in a house. He met Komagami and invited him to join their fight for the future. Shun and Komagami then gathered people with superpowers. Shun succeeded in gathering people with special powers and founded a school for children with special needs. At that time, he sacrificed a lot, losing his sight because he used his time travel power too many times. He also asked his friend to erase you and Ayumi's memories of him. Shun then disappeared from their lives and watched them from behind the scenes. He asked you to take his time travel power to save Ayumi from dying. You agreed as long as Ayumi could be saved. Shortly after, you returned to the day Ayumi was sick and told Nao that he was from the future. He asked Nao, Jujeru, and Yusa to help save Ayumi. The next day at school, you stayed close to Ayumi and watched her closely. Nao and the others came to Ayumi's school, and Jujeru disguised himself as a middle school teacher to watch Ayumi in class. However, their disguises were discovered. Only you was left to help Ayumi. When Ayumi was about to be attacked, you came to her rescue. At that moment, Konishi ran away in fear after being caught trying to hurt Ayumi. After that, Komagami and Madoki picked up you and Ayumi to meet Shun. You and Ayumi met Shun and then went to see the professor. The professor said he was making a vaccine for people with special powers. The vaccine was called Charlotte, named after the orbiting comet. Next, Komagami went to monitor the school with their personal driver, a man named Furuki. There, Furuki looked strange because he had been threatened by enemies, and his family had been kidnapped. Turns out, he was forced to hand over Komagami to the enemy. When they arrived, Komagami was tortured by a stranger. He was interrogated with a truth serum and revealed information about the enemy's special powers. The terrorists then went to the school and kidnapped Nao. They told Furuki to bring you to them. Shortly after, Furuki told Shun that the terrorists wanted you at the crime scene. At that time, Shun and his friends decided that you should go to save Nao and Komagami. At first, you wasn't confident, but when he thought about Nao, he decided to go. At the crime scene, you tried to use his powers but was caught in the enemy's trap. His right eye was attacked, so he couldn't travel through time. Suddenly, you went berserk and destroyed the place. Shun and the others arrived and saw the collapsed building. There, you and Nao survived with injuries, but Komagami died saving Nao. Shun was very sad about losing Komagami forever. Next, you was hospitalized and visited by his older brother's friends. You asked Madoki where Shun was. Madoki said Shun was hurt after losing his best friend. Soon after, Jujeru visited you and brought his favorite food from the canteen. They talked together. Yusa also visited, bringing her family special dishes for you to eat. There, you told Yusa to visit her family in the village and to tell Misa to meet their parents because he didn't want Misa to have regrets. Finally, Misa followed Yusa's advice and went on holiday to her hometown. At that time, the producer filmed the event and shared it with fans. Misa thanked her parents, but her parents felt that in Yusa's body, Misa was present. Back at the hospital, Ayumi visited you and made him omelette fried rice. Madoki then asked you to meet Shun, who was still grieving over Komagami's death. When you saw Shun, he remembered how he felt when he lost Ayumi and understood Shun's pain. Soon after, you returned to his hospital room and saw Nao. He was surprised that Nao visited him. They talked, and he asked for her advice. Nao said you must take away the powers of everyone with supernatural abilities. Hearing that, you agreed and took Nao's power first. Then, you confessed his love to Nao and said he would wait for her. After the mission was successful, she accepted you as her boyfriend. There, you shared this idea with Shun. At first, Shun refused, but you convinced him to support the plan. Shun announced Yu's future actions to their friends, who supported his decision and placed their hopes in him. At that time, Shun asked you to go abroad to carry out his mission while Shun and his friends would protect Japan from terrorists. Soon after, you prepared to go abroad and met with Jujeru and Yusa. At that moment, you took their powers and got ready for his mission. Before leaving, Nao gave him English translation notes to help him communicate while abroad. When you arrived abroad, he started taking supernatural powers from people in different countries. He traveled from one region to another, moving from country to country, taking away the powers of people with special abilities. One day, he reached an enemy base where they shot at him. Yuu used his powers to block the bullets and paralyze the enemies. Eventually, he felt his body changing. While listening to a call from Shun, Yuu got very angry and destroyed the place he was staying. He almost attacked civilians because his powers were out of control. Yuu then went to the Middle East. At an inn, he watched TV and saw news about an attack in an Arab country, realizing he was the target. Yuu easily defeated the people who tried to attack him. Next, Yuu continued his mission in other countries, from Germany to Poland. He became very popular and was nicknamed the One-Eyed God of Death. At that time, Yuu forgot about the people closest to him, including Nao. Eventually, Yuu arrived in Beijing. He was attacked by an arrow but was saved by a Chinese girl named Yuki. Yuki blocked the attacker and tried to protect Yuu. Soon after, he took Yuki's power and told her to leave. There, he couldn't control his powers anymore and fainted. Soon after, Shun came to rescue Yuu using a helicopter. Yuu was brought back to Japan. When he woke up, he saw Nao beside him, but he didn't remember who she was. Nao was sad that Yuu had forgotten her. She told him that she was his girlfriend and gave him a small note she made into a talisman. Hearing that, Yuu apologized to Nao for making her sad. On the other hand, Shun and his friends visit Kamigami's grave. Shun has completed the mission his best friend wanted to do. Meanwhile, Nao uses her camera to capture beautiful new memories with Yuu and their friends. Finally, they can live happily without using supernatural powers anymore. Yuu's adventure to remove magical powers ends here. The moral lesson from this anime is if you find yourself with superpowers, remember that even heroes need a break and a good snack. And always beware of thugs with arrows and scientists with creepy experiments.